It's starting right now.
Okay.
Good timing, Hoyt. Okay, so greetings, everyone. This is the Washington State Building Code Council IEBC Technical Advisory Group for May 9th, 2024. I'm Todd Byruther. I'll chair today. We'll start with a roll call of TAG members, and then we'll open for introductions from the public. So I'll pass it to Rosanna or Dustin, please.
I've got the roll call.
Thank you.
Start off with Todd Bayreuther.
Here.
And then Joe Mayo. Calling for the alternate in architects.
Joe Mayo's president.
Joe's here. Gotcha. Thank you. And then Tim Woodard. Get my participants list up. Okay, calling for the alternate for building officials, Steve Belzak. Okay. And then Hoyt Jeter.
I'm here.
Thank you. Bill Mybush. Not seeing him in there. Joshua Mergens.
Present, though I may have to leave before the conclusion.
Okay, if you can just raise your hand and let us know you're leaving when that happens, that'd be much appreciated. Looks like we'll be close on quorum here today.
Sounds good.
Michael Barth.
I am here.
Paul Clark. And Andy Leonto.
Present.
All right, so let me make sure I've called everybody.
Could we perhaps ask for the alternates that are here?
Yeah, I was just gonna see if we have the quorum. I've called the alternates for the primaries who aren't here yet. So I guess I'll go over the other alternates. We got Che Fortaleza.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Sean Karlstrom. And Trent Tenney. And the last alternate, Leah Summer.
Here.
Thank you. All right, so we have 1, 2. So we have 6 out of 10, which gives us a quorum for today.
Okay. Thank you, Dustin. Then we'll let anyone from the public, if they'd like to be recognized, please do so.
I'm Gary Chris. I'm the fire marshal for the city of Mount Vernon.
Thank you. Very welcome.
Hi, Andrea Smith, Building Industry Association of Washington.
Greetings, Andrew. Okay. Hearing no others, we will, I'll ask for a motion to review and approve today's agenda, please.
So moved. This is Tim.
Thank you. Can we hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Hoyt.
I gotta
Okay,
learn to unmute myself. Sorry about that.
No worries. No worries. Okay, I need discussion on the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Nay. Okay, so approved. Moving on to item 3, we're gonna go through and redo the meeting minutes from April 16th, 23rd, and then add May 2nd. I don't think I called for a motion properly last week. So now can we hear a motion for all 3, please, to approve all 3?
So moved. This is Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Second.
Thank you, Hoyt. Okay, now any discussion on these 3 minutes, and we can pull them up if anybody would like to see them. They are posted.
So I've got the 16th here. I'll scroll through while looking for hands if there's comment.
Dustin, I think you're locked on your,
Oh, I'm on my different share. Give me one
Yeah.
moment.
and as you do that, I think we can also just ask if anybody would like to review them or take a minute. We're definitely not in a hurry. So
Yeah.
if not, they are posted.
There's the 16th. Then the 23rd of April come in here. And then our last meeting on the 2nd of May.
Okay. Okay, if there's no discussions or proposed edits, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so approved. Thank you. Agenda item 4, and I just go back there. If there were any comments from the public, I want to restate that we run these meetings as very public. So if you have anyone from the public would like to comment, any alternates, please raise your hand and you'll be recognized on any of these items. Okay, so item number 4 is public comment on an item that's not on today's agenda. So anything that's not related to the review of the IBC chapters. Oh, Tim, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention.
No worries. I just wanted to make sure that the minutes were reflected correctly next time. I did join a little late from my cohort Barry on here. He let
Okay.
me know that they called me absent.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So was that on one of the previous
No,
minutes
that's
or
on
today's minute?
that's on today's moving forward, so I didn't want to bring it up while we were approving the last
Nope.
motion.
Thanks for jumping in, though. Dustin Rosana, did you follow that?
I got you covered.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you, Tim. Okay, now public comment. Would anyone like to be recognized for public comment today? Okay. Hearing none, we'll go right into today's work. So today's a work session. We're gonna review our progress, and I will throw it to Dustin to give us an update. And
Hey, can I ask one
Yeah.
question real quick?
Go ahead,
I know
Hoyt.
we had the Excel spreadsheets that were sent out to do. I've never gotten anything that said people received them. Did you guys get the one that I sent?
Should we, Hoyt, what do you think? Should we, as we
Just
go
wanna-
through each
Oh, right, as we
chapter,
go
maybe
through
we
it?
can
Okay, that'll-
ask and make sure what was received and just kind of confirm verbally, and
Okay,
is that a
that's
good way
fine.
to do it, you think, Hoyt?
No, that's fine. That's perfect. I just wasn't sure
Okay.
if it ever.
I think we'll get a feel for what we want to do today, how thorough we want to be. So maybe, as we go, everyone please comment on, faster, slower. We don't need to be so thorough on this review, but we can take as much time as we want. So this is our task today. So thank you. So go ahead,
Yeah.
Dustin.
Yeah, Hoyt, we do have some updated stuff here on our spreadsheet that hasn't been disseminated back out. I want to send this out after today's meeting to all the tags for the week. I do show we got chapter 14 on here, but I don't think this is 100% up to date as of today's inbox receipts. So I'd have to just double check on that, just to touch base on that real quick. So breaking off into chapter 5.
Hey, Dustin, can you kind of review what we want to accomplish today? So
Yeah.
before we jump into each one of them.
Yes, so
Thank
the
you.
goal here is to approve chapter by chapter. These reports that we have, these are kind of our rough drafts for a master document that'll be put forward to the committees above us and then to the council beyond that. And so what we're trying to do here is look at it in chunks by chapter. Look at the individual sections as we go through here. If we want to skim through, I guess at any point we could entertain a motion to approve the chapter as depicted here, or if we want to go through each section by section. And at the fire code tag this last Tuesday, we went through the existing amendments and significant changes side by side to try to reduce the amount of jumping around inside of a Word document to look at the text surrounding all that. So today we have here chapter 5. This has been worked on a little bit since you guys have submitted it to us. We at the staff, one of the big things we're trying to do is make it as digestible as possible to the folks who aren't doing this work directly. So what we've been doing is going through here and inserting the code language text below the sections where we have the comments, and it should just be copy paste from the Word document. There are some numbering errors that crop up when you just copy paste and if you're not paying attention. But anyway, we've got this one taken care of.
Dustin,
Yes,
sorry to
sir?
interrupt you, but just to make sure I understand, so we could take action today, but I think is it preferable that we go through in detail, digest it, and then make sure that we would have the final version then posted, and then we could all review it and then come back whenever our next meeting is, a week or so, and take final action on all these?
That is entirely possible too. At the tag meeting for the fire code, we approved 2 chapters to go into the final document to go to the committees. They were shorter chapters, and so if it works better to go through these a little bit faster and then digest them and come back and approve them at the next meeting, I am completely open to that, and I would ask the group what they would prefer.
Yeah, I think I'd like to hear from other tag members on what process we'd like to follow. Go ahead, Hoyt.
Okay, what I think we should do is as we do it, it doesn't make sense to come back and redo it. If we could approve it now and be done, I've gone through this a few cycles. We end up getting an endless loop if we keep coming back and back and back. We have a quorum, we have everybody here. I think our expertise on this staff can make that decision, and if we should be able to make that to kind of, it'll end up, I think, making our work less if we don't have to go back again. Unless we see something that say, no, this needs to be changed because XYZ reasons or something's wrong, then come back to it. That's my recommendation.
I think you're right, Hoyt. And unless anyone opposes that, I think that's a good suggestion. And I think we can also revisit if new information comes up, or we think we need to revisit next week. We can always do that. So, okay. Because again, everyone, this is a recommendation to the council. So I think we have a little more flexibility on how we take official action and revisit. So, okay.
Yep. So on this one, chapter 5 was worked on by Todd, Brett, and Joe Mayo. I don't recall exactly who sent this one into us. So I think was it Joe by chance, maybe?
Yeah, I sent that over.
Okay. Do you want to go through it and I can drive it for you, or would you like me to present it, or how would you like to? Because I don't want to misrepresent any of your comments in here.
I don't know actually going first what the best way to do it is. Maybe if you want to drive, and then maybe if the 3 of us have comments, we can interrupt you. Does that seem right?
Okay. That is perfectly acceptable. Just as a kind of how it was running at the fire code tag, because they're running a little bit just ahead of you, and so we had the chance to experiment. I was driving and I would call out the code section we're looking at currently, make some highlights if it makes it easier to see it, and then you would kind of go over your recommendation on here, and so it worked out pretty good that way. It was a little slow going. So I guess we'll just leap off. Well, wait, before we go, I want to share with everybody some developments here today. With both the fire tag and the building code tag, it's just not looking like we're going to be ready for the end of next week to present these to the committee meeting. And then even potentially if we skip the committee meeting, would it be ready in time for the May 24th council meeting? And so I'm making the decision today to push this whole project out for 1 month until the June meeting. So we have committee meetings scheduled the week before that council meeting. and then a council meeting on the 20th, I do believe. Let me I clicked out of it. Looks like our council meeting in June is on the 21st, and we already have some committee meetings scheduled on the 14th. And in order to present the best product to the committees and the council, and not rush this as much as we've been rushing it, I think it's going to be best for the product to wait one more month, even though I really didn't want to do that, as far as overlap coming down the line later on in the code cycle. So that's the plan at the moment. So if you haven't given us your chapters just yet, take a quick breath. We have a little bit more time on the books to do it. And so we'll work with it on that front. And then that note, I will jump into chapter 5.
Hey, Dustin, so sorry to interrupt you, but thank you for sharing that. And then that seems realistic. What does that impact on the rest of our schedule? Does that delay perhaps the proposal window, or what else does it affect?
So so as far as everything that's on the schedule for group 1, it's gonna push it out by 1 month.
Okay.
And and we're not gonna put forward the MVPE codes as well. So the commercial energy code, which isn't even out yet and isn't really being worked on. And then there's the mechanical and international fuel gas code that are bundled with that in group 1. And then the kind of hybridization of the commercial energy code along with those two. And so it's going to shift that whole section out. And then we'll have a little bit of overlap in the group 2 versus group 1. And so the fear is that we will be overloaded with doing this exact work that we're doing right now for the group 2 codes while we're drafting CR 102s and things like that to finalize the group 1 codes. And so we are working on getting more staff on board that should be able to help with that workload. It's just right now we're running thin, and we are not making it with the staff at this moment.
Okay, understood. Thank you. And then so that means there's a sprint for the staff right now, and then in terms of the commitment by the TAG members, there might be a little gap here before we would pick up more work. Is that correct?
Correct. If we get through all of these chapters here today, I'd like to still keep our regularly scheduled meetings. If we get through what we have here today, anything that comes in by Tuesday next week, we'll include on the agenda for Thursday, and we'll just keep chunking away at it as we get it done. And but I really think that the extra month is going to give us like you said, it's more realistic, and it's still a lift, but I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as what we first.
No, sounds like from the TAG standpoint, there might be short little touch points every week, but they might be pretty quick.
Correct. And so the hope is as we get these in, I can get these uploaded. One of the reasons I was late on getting these ones here is because I'm trying to insert these code texts in here so that when we are done with these, we just put them in the master document and they're done. But in the interest of getting you guys the information that everybody's been working on fastest, I'm not going to be uploading the documents like you see here on the left-hand side of the screen. They'll be without the code text in there, and we'll review them side by side with the Word document. And then as we get ready for the master document, all that code text will be inserted in there as well.
Yeah, no, it's significant work this time. It's a different process, but I think it's also pretty rewarding to see the actual code text in there. So, okay, we'll let you be. Thank you, Dustin. Okay.
And any point anybody has questions, raise hand or just jump in and say, hey, excuse me, I don't mind the interruptions. It lets me catch my breath. All right. So section 503.1.4. 503.1.4 has this text in here as a state amendment. And oh shoot. I'm forgetting who submitted this one. Apologies. Whoever drafted this, could you please speak up and let's talk over the recommendation here.
Todd, do you want me to cover it? Or I know you might have actually marked this one up instead of me, but I'm happy to
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Go
just
over
is a
it.
little hard for me to see on the
So would it
text
help if I
that's there.
maximized this and zoomed it in?
Maybe for my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like they basically revised the language of occupied roofs. And I did have a comment on this one. Originally, it was enclosures of occupied roofs, and it looked like the model code is now enclosures over occupied roof areas. And I wasn't sure the word over is, I mean, I'm sure there's good reason for it, but I've encountered this in the past, and um, sometimes there's walls that you need, like a chain link wall or something on an elevated play field to keep things from going over the side. So is it really over, or is enclosure actually a better term? Maybe someone else on the call knows why it went to over.
Well, a lot of it enclosures over occupied roofs. These were talking a little bit about people are putting canopies or stuff up there on the roof sometimes. Like they don't have walls, so it's like they basically have an open area,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where it came from. Enclosures over occupied roofs.
Okay.
I think the model, this has heard of the code hearings and been worked out pretty thoroughly. I think now the um, the building code has addressed this pretty good, or maybe it's because I've been to so many code hearings now that I kind of got this well wrapped in my head. I'm not sure we really need to say enclosures, because what happens, people were worried about occupied roofs because it's not a story, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's because a floor is a story, a floor, that was it. And I think we took our state amendments into the national code, and I think they got adopted. Mike might be able to answer a little bit. He's been involved with some of this stuff too, Mike Barth. So, but
And Hoyt, this is the one that I raised as an example where um, we need to make a recommendation or need guidance on how we refine this, because the blue, number 2 there in the footnotes, says elements or structures enclosing occupied roof areas. Pretty much to me, that defines what a high-rise building is, where we had high-rise building in the Washington Code. And we discussed that it's not appropriate for us to simply strike high-rise buildings from our Washington amendments. It probably should be a proposal, unless you think that is the model code is replacing the intent of the Washington Code. Did that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think the model code is kind of have dealt with this already with
Yeah.
the
Basically, if I'm understanding this correctly, our recommendation would be to adopt the model code and
Strike the state amendment.
strike the state amendment. Is that the correct terminology?
It may not be the most correct, but
Okay.
I think the
understand the
intent
intent.
is clear.
Okay.
So as far as it would be setting this section, if we keep 503.1.4.2 in here, we'll still have a WAC 503 that will have content. If we strike both of those, then we would just change it to reserved. So we're essentially just going to strike this section from WAC 503 or 5150.503.
And does anyone see a problem there where we're missing something by doing that?
I don't, but I just wanted to throw out there because I did like that it was side by side earlier, Dustin, with the
Yeah, go
with
back.
the
My eyes are good
chapter. No, but I get why, it couldn't read it as well, but I think it helps by being able to see it within the
For sure.
code as well when we're talking about if we agree or don't agree.
For sure.
Would it help if I showed more of the Word document and did the work on the tables kind of on the side off screen?
No,
I-
this works. I just couldn't read the Excel sheet at the time. So if you do this and can move around a little bit in the Excel sheet, that works for me.
Okay.
and I also have the code open myself, so it's kind of nice to have it there. So
All right. So we're in agreement. 503.1.4. As what I thought I heard, and I will move on to 503.1.4.2 unless there's objection. Okay. I'm just gonna go back to the maximized version of this one. We are sitting here on this line. It's a short piece of text. Looks like the recommendation is to edit the existing Washington amendment to change occupied to occupiable. And I'll switch over to the Word document
Well,
here.
I think the model code would supersede that. Is that right? Or no, I see. That's a Washington only amendment.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't the section that indicates any surfaces over whatever 30 inches require guards? Is it, I don't know, is there a reason to have this section?
503.1 dot or dot 1.4.2 is a Washington only amendment, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is this simply then an editorial change to change from occupied to occupied to be consistent with the new model code that we're
Yeah, I definitely agree with that change. I'm just wondering if this additional section, because other parts of the code dictate when you need a guard. So well, I was just curious about the intent of having this here at all. Is it needed?
It definitely seems like overkill, but
Yeah.
since it's already there, I definitely agree with the change.
Okay.
okay.
So it says edit the existing Washington amendment. So is that what we want to keep on there?
I think so.
All right, moving on to 504.3, which has to do with the table 504.3. There's some model code changes in there, and the recommendation is to adopt those changes and then retain the existing footnote I in the bottom of the table. And so I'm going to skip back to the Word document and get there. So do we want to look at the code section at all, or we just skip down to the footnote in here?
No, we need that footnote I, for those are for the I-1s, institutional for Washington, because they're specifically to the WAC. They have specific requirements that has to be on top of it. So we should keep our state amendment on that, based on my experience. So it is not exactly the same as a model code.
And we need to add that footnote to the chart, I think. I don't think it's in there right now. So that's something we missed.
It's in the Word document, and just the way it's put together, the formatting has it skip down to the next page after the table.
Oh, but that footnote doesn't it need to actually get added to the table itself under the I occupancy classification? Like there's other footnotes. That footnote doesn't occur in the table. Maybe it doesn't need to.
No, I think well, you're right. It does need to be in the table. But I thought it had it in there. So
I think they may be reformatting the footnote sections of the tables. I haven't paid attention to that, but this is where I think it would go.
Yeah, Dustin, I think what he's saying is the subsection, kind of like to the power of, they put the little a next to it in the table so that you know to go look at the footnote below it.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you.
Oh, in this case, the little I next to it.
yeah, it would be I, and it would have to be up in the table for the I2 or I1s. So if you go up to I1s, you'll have to put that I. See where it says E, F, G,
Right
all
up in
that.
here on both, just the not sprinklered line.
Well, I think they're always sprinkled, but yeah, it definitely is. Hang on, let me read it real quick. I can't remember top of my head. I'm sorry.
All right.
But I know the I's have to be. I mean, the footnote I needs to be for the I occupancies. Sorry about that.
Let's keep it for that. Both I1, I3, and I1, I2. Put the footnote I in here.
Yeah, because I thought we
And
didn't
I4.
adopt I4s. Am I wrong on that? Maybe I'm wrong.
If we look at the footnote that is in the state amendment, I think it references just I2, I1 condition 2.
Yeah, exactly.
So you only need it under that one.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. So it's the number, it's I1 condition 2, which we call I-2. Should be right there.
Paul, go ahead and jump in anytime.
Okay. I think we have that footnote there. I'm not sure why it's wrapping that text.
Paul, did you have a comment on that?
I think Paul has his hands up.
Must be having trouble.
Yeah, I'm looking at the WAC section, and that I appears under I1 condition 2, I2 under the sprinkler. Sprinkler, it says the footnote. So I don't.
Oh, it's on the S line.
Yeah, in the current on the current WAC, it is. So maybe it's something we need to spend a little bit more time to make sure that it's putting the footnote in the right place.
I think as long as the intent is clear, is that good enough, Dustin, for our recommendation?
Yeah. I'll on the table, I'm gonna put a note to check onto the footnote.
Okay.
Yeah, remember it's not a superscript, it's a subscript. Just
Yeah.
Word. I don't. Does anybody know the keyboard shortcut for subscript?
I do it the long way. I highlight it and then yeah, I guess it's right there. So sorry,
Yeah.
they
It's all
keep,
good.
yeah, so.
There we go. Got it.
This may be a stupid question, but when we get all this done, like these charts that you're doing, will we get just one more look at it before we
That is, I
finalize it?
think, the intent here. So my plan was if we can approve chapter 5, it'll go away until we're ready to approve a master document, and
Got it.
it'll
The
have everything in it.
Yeah, I'm talking the master document. That's what I'm talking about. We get to look at the master document to make sure that's correct. Okay, perfect.
So, okay.
And Dustin, just on that point, how is this going to work this time? So what gets filed with the C102? That should be the actual code language, right?
So the code language will be included in the CR 102. The main difference is that we're not going to be utilizing the Office of Typing Services. So there's so when we draft the code language to be what you see on the website there for our wax, we have to get it in a certain format, and we could either type that up ourselves and then have it scrutinized for formatting, or we can send the stuff off and have the people who scrutinize it do the formatting for us and send it back. So we've had this back and forth where mistakes happen, and so this time around, the CR 102 will contain the language, but it won't be part of it's not going to be part of what's published online on the wax. And
but we're contracting ICC to help us write that code language, then that gets filed in the CR 102.
Correct.
A draft. Okay. That's helpful. Yeah. That is different, just if everyone's not tracking. So
yeah, it's quite a bit different. It's should allow staff to have a little bit more free reign to get things done quicker. And we'll be just referencing the one document. There's one place, and hopefully talking with ICC, we'll be able to have any errata that might come out outside of our normal cycles. The digital formats will be updated quickly. Right. Then talking with them was still kind of up in the air what they might want to do for an errata package on our soft cover productions. So,
but to Hoyt's concern, like there are a lot of opportunities for us to look at actual code language throughout the whole process, including in the CR 102 and make corrections. Okay, thank you.
All right, so are we, as far as adopting the new model code changes to the table, we're accepting of that one, correct?
Yeah, I don't think there's any changes to the table. It was just adding our Washington State amendment to it.
Okay, I didn't see any model code changes in there. I just have a line in here that says adopt the model code changes. So
Oh,
should I delete this line is I guess my question. Line 14. Or is that for actual code text?
I think we should change that to read insert existing, or however we want to phrase it, insert existing Washington State amendment or retain Washington State amendment. Not, and then make sure the footnote is in the table correctly.
So if I kill this line that's highlighted in gray up at the top and we retain the existing footnote I in table 5043,
yeah,
that covers the base for this section, right?
I believe so.
Okay,
Yeah, that makes sense to me also.
there we go.
Great.
And then we're going to hit that one screen. Cool. Moving on to 504.4. Where did it go? They have stair enclosure pressurization increases. This one was not included in the original submission of this document, so I have the recommendation highlighted. Or no, I'm sorry, 504.4. I've skipped past. Existing.
I thought we had to keep that because that was done by legislation. I remember when this came in. It's not in the model code, but we should keep this existing amendment.
Right,
That's
I
what I
have on here my recommendation to keep it. I just wanted to put it forward to the group.
Yeah, because I remember when this in many meetings ago. So it is different than the model code.
Okay. Now this 504.4 retain existing footnote to 504.3. That's the same as what we have up here, but I have group I1 condition 2 assisted. This is the same stuff here. It's labeled a little bit funny. If it's agreeable to the group, I propose to remove this section right here.
I think we might have like two separate tables there with the same
Yeah.
footnote.
Yeah, I think you have to keep both for both tables. So
You're
they're two
correct.
tables.
You're correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, so the I1 condition 2 should have a footnote I here in the sprinkle section.
Yes, that's what I remember.
And looking at for
Can someone explain to me why do they do some places they do subscripts and some places they do superscripts? Does anyone know? Because that confused me why that was that way.
I don't have a good clue, honestly. I think it
I
should
never
all-
noticed until now, Hoyt, but I'm glad you pointed it out.
I think they should all be superscript. It stands out better to me, but that's just because visually I'm blind. So, but that's just me.
I can definitely ask the editors on this one what if there is a meaning behind it. We met the other day and everything they're pretty much waiting on us at this point, so nothing crazy came out of that meeting. And then
If they don't know and they don't care, I would love to have them all, and I want other people to on comment too, to not be subscript but superscripts, because I like them up higher because it's for me. I notice them quicker than when they're down low, but that's just me.
I mean, I agree. If it counts for anything.
Sounds like a Washington amendment to me.
All right, getting to 505.1 for mezzanines and equipment platforms. 505.1, we have an exception for the Washington Amendment. And the recommendation is to keep the state amendment.
Yep.
Hearing no conversation, I assume that
Is the
recommendation is
four,
favorable.
is the 420 correct? The reference? I mean, I just don't remember. That's the only thing I would, whoever checked this one, if that 420, you had that reference to it, you had it open a second ago. Maybe I was looking at my notes. Yeah, so
Wow.
you see where it says section 420.14 and
Yep.
420, but someone checked that to make sure that was correct, right?
This is accurate in our WAC. When this got caught, this is an example of the copy paste not working. You'll notice that
Oh,
it's
okay. Okay. No problem.
If you have reference questions like that, is there a way, Dustin, we can just highlight those to make sure that we come back to them and confirm them?
Yes, definitely possible.
Yeah, I didn't actually read those code sections, but it sounded like an applicable section for
Yeah, I do.
420 and R.
I work on the code and correlation things with ICC, and I found that's where things get missed.
Yeah.
Cross references all the time. So that's why I just brought that up. So
Yeah. Good to double,
Do-
triple check.
Okay. Or Dustin, is there a way you just simply, and you also highlight when we have questions as we're going through here?
Yeah, so
put it in
I'm gonna
purple
mark
or
this
yellow or
one
whatever,
to
and
keep
yeah.
it, but then this I'll have over here a flag for checking to see if
Okay.
the reference is still valid.
Okay.
All right.
and my concern, see where it says NEC 2020 NEC. I don't actually have the NEC, so I just want to let you know if that's the National Electrical Code. Is there anyone in our group that's familiar with that code? I'm not, so just letting you know.
I know what it stands for, and that's about it for me.
Yeah, because I know the state does a lot of our electrical stuff, so that's why I don't get into the NEC. Is anybody in our committee pretty familiar with that? Mike, are you? Or I'm not, because you have a lot of experience in the code, so.
I do, but I don't have it in front of me, and I can't really give that answer right now. I do have one.
So Dustin, it sounds to me like let's put a check reference up in line 18 also, right? Just to make sure that NEC reference is correct. Is that what you're referring to, Hoyt?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
That's what that was. So that it's just a double check. I mean,
Yeah.
And the reason I don't check it is because I don't have the NEC. So.
Yep. Likewise.
They do have online free versions. Since we don't mess with it, I'm not familiar, but I would hope that they have an online free version somewhere for us to look at, but they may not.
Okay.
So I'll see if I can source that to double check that, unless somebody else has access to the book.
I think if we can do it on the fly, that's great. But I think we just putting this flag is also efficient way to do it.
I've pulled my book out. I'm looking. What are we looking? We're looking for 701.12.
Yes, sir.
And is the 220 the correct one? 2020?
Yes,
Correct.
that's why I had to.
Because that's the one thing you got to go back and look at the
Yeah.
reference. This is where I go to. You got to go back to the reference chapters and check to make sure the reference chapter references the correct NEC, National Electrical Code.
Hoyt, is that good code practice to put the actual year in there, or just simply put NEC section and make sure that the referencing is correct in 35?
The way I've always done it is you just put NEC and then you're supposed to go to the reference standards to pick the one.
Yeah.
You do that with ANSI and things like that. They don't actually put the years in there. So
Is this something that got copied in there because of legislation, or is it just? I guess I'm asking, is it something maybe we want to clean up?
I got to tell you, I'm not familiar with, since I don't do electrical reviews or anything. I'm not familiar. I mean, I know of some by osmosis from kind of listening and hearing people. I'm not an expert on that. Hopefully someone else here is better at that than I am.
Okay.
I didn't want to, I just don't think it's a good idea. And if you put a reference in there, it should always be cross-referenced to make sure it's correct.
Yeah.
And the one thing is, we don't control the NEC, and all of a sudden they change the NEC by addendum or whatever, and the section changes and it doesn't get caught. That's just been my pet peeve on things. So
Yeah.
Okay, I just that was my question: is should we, as good practice, strike the years to be consistent?
Sometimes the years is needed to make sure we
Yeah.
get the right one. And you know, for the answer on this, I'm looking at it, and there are some new sections in 701.12 in the 2020. So we should look, is there somebody, we need to look at that carefully, because there are some text deletions and some additions within that. So if C, D, E, F, H, and J were changed or even renumbered, we do still need to confirm that. And I can't really do that on the fly, but
Go ahead, Andy.
So the reference for the NEC in the 2024 IBC is the 2023 edition.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. That's what I was worried about.
Yeah, sorry to bring that up. It's just one of those things I have found so many times. And I'm like, well, that's the wrong edition.
Yep.
And then you can't find it when you look for it. So,
That's a
or
good
where the
catch.
right one is.
So I got the note in there. Check the 2020 NEC is the same as the 2023, and potentially remove the year reference as a thought.
And then make sure CDE. I mean, this is funny. I've never, well, I didn't say never, but it says or subsequent revised section numbers, but let's try to catch all.
And,
That
and the one
sounds like legislative language.
yeah, that is legislation language. And the one thing is making sure that NEC stuff, which is important, if it's in the reference standards of the I codes. So you actually go back and it gives that year, like they do all the other standards for everything else. You know how that, and then whatever chapter that is, all the reference standards of the chapters.
what we need to do is see what the specific of that was, because it would almost seem like in a Washington State amendment, the building code referencing electrical, it should be said, you know, standby power shall comply with the NEC as adopted under WAC 296, yada yada. So that it's, you know, consistent with the state adoption of that, as opposed to, you know, to the specific edition and section.
Is this one that should perhaps be a proposal to clean this up so that it gets done correctly? Tim?
I don't know about a proposal. I was just going to comment that, you know, if this was legislation, which is what I heard, and they needed it to comply with those or the relevant sections, this seems like a reference that we can leave exactly the way it is, the older NEC, not have to update it to the new NEC, but just say you need to comply with this as of the 2020 and the subsequent revised section numbers, and just maintain that in perpetuity so that we're not the ones, you know, determining how you would revise it in accordance with the NEC. And, you know, that wasn't the intent of the legislation, obviously, either.
It's a good point, Tim. I mean, it is one of those things I think we should, you know, Dustin, if it's something that staff can look into, that understand if that was the legislative intent, or if we would somehow change that legislative intent by taking it back into rulemaking to clean it up.
Yeah, I mean, so I think as far as the purpose of this report, we want to keep an amendment in there, but flagging it for future reference, you know, deliberation amongst the group and potential proposal during the appropriate time is fine to have on this report as well.
So just
Okay.
one note to follow up on Tim's comment there, in the 2018 Washington State Building Code, the reference for the NEC is the 2017. So it seems like jumping from 2018 to 2021, it was updated to the 2020 NEC. And if we try to follow the same pattern, and I'm not an electrical engineer, but typically, you know, when we try to deal with different standards, different versions of the same standard, I'm not sure what the implications of the other design aspects on that. So it may be something that needs to be brought up to the legislation and see if that can be updated as well to the 2023 in this case.
And just for everyone knowing, the way the I codes work, if the standard's not ready, they don't adopt it. So that was the reason why they skipped the ANSI, and we took us a while to get to the ANSI in the code because it wasn't ready. So the I codes do not adopt it if it's not ready.
Okay. So the note I have on here is check that the 2023 or the sections are the same. Consider removing the year reference, but if we were going to continue that in the 2018 code, we'd reference the 2017, 2021, we'd reference the 2020, and if we were to follow that trend, we should reference the 2023 in this updated amendment.
I think ultimately we really just need to do a full review of that. And if that did come from a legislative intent, then we, like Tim said, then we just have to meet the legislation. But I think doing anything else, we could jumble something if we don't look at the big picture there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay. Move on to 508.5.1.
One point on the lofts, I did look in that those sections are in the, looks like they're Washington State amendments. So as long as those don't for whatever reason get deleted in the 2021 Washington State, then those are good. So whoever is doing chapter 4 should come up in chapter 4 review.
Gotcha. I believe there'll be some changes in there with the adoption of the R4 occupancy within 420 this go around. All right. Okay. 505.1, which is coming up. Sorry. 505.1 mezzanines general. Recommend to keep the amendment of the addition of an exception. Oh, we are already there. Sorry. We're in 508.5.1. All right.
Justin, you can go
So-
side by side if it's helpful.
Okay. And so in 508.5.1, it's indicated that the model code text is identical to the state amendment text.
Yep.
Yeah, that's correct. Because I was there at the hearings when we talked about this and we put that through. So it should be the same.
So we will delete the amendment to follow the model code text.
Unless we screwed up when we're doing it. I hope we didn't.
I think that's the wrong color orange. All right. Moving on to table 509.1. Reduce that in size just a little bit. So incidental uses. We have a line and a footnote at the bottom of there. It looks like the recommendation is to maintain the amendment.
I'm not really familiar with dry type transformers, but it seemed like it was in there. We should maintain it. The one comment I have is it looked like in all the sections above, it used to be 1 hour or automatic sprinkler. It looks like it's changed to 1 hour and automatic sprinkler. So I don't know if our green text should then be revised to 1 hour and provide automatic sprinkler. Maybe someone who's more familiar with this section might know better than me.
Well, some of these lines in here have the or.
Oh
and
yeah,
some-
they do. Yeah.
And
Never mind.
I think if we change that to and, that would definitely be a regulatory change.
No,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be or is correct.
Yeah, okay.
I looked at that because the reason is if you sprinkle it, you could substitute that for 1 hour. Okay, that's where it came from. So that was these specific ones that are are specifically really high incidental uses for hazards for life safety issues. That's why they put and. So I believe or is correct for this one, based on my experience for working with this. So they either got to put those transformers with that kilowatt or kilovolt ampage, that ampage that has to be in there. You either have to have a 1 hour rated assembly around it or sprinkle that or provide automatic sprinkler system.
And then looking at the footnote of the superscript at the end of this line here for the dry type was in the WAC there, just on this line. The WAC doesn't show it should be anywhere else. I don't think it should be. But I've changed the superscript at the end of this line right here.
Yeah, I was always confused about that because it already said NFPA 70 and then it says you have to install it per NFPA 70 again. I was always confused on why that was there. So I already thought you had to meet NFPA 70, but it's okay. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't have to be. I mean, it's fine.
Well, wait, Tim, go ahead and then.
I was just gonna bring up, like, this seems to be the first one that would possibly also need to be on the significant changes checklist because it does add cost with and a sprinkler system versus being or before. So are we gonna review those kind of simultaneously?
I think that if we were going to propose changing it to and, that we would have to do that during the proposal period, and then that would be the cost to be evaluated at that point.
Okay, but the model code changed it to and, so it's still a
Oh.
significant change for the
I
model
agree.
code,
I'm
right?
sorry. Yes, if they changed it to and instead of or, I think that should be on our significant changes sheet. Speaking of which, I don't have any significant changes on this sheet that was submitted. So I can definitely put this one in here. Table 5091.
And while Dustin is doing that, Hoyt, I had read that as the main table addresses the room and then the footnote addresses an additional need for a vault. Are those different things, I assume? If it's rated over 35,000 volts? Is that the distinction?
Unmute myself, my pop-up screen came up, so I couldn't. Yeah, that was a distinction. That's correct.
Okay.
So
So I'm checking the against 2021. It seems like the one where the 2024 IPC added the word and sprinkler system. There was no sprinkler system provided or included in the 2021 IPC or WSPC. So it seems like
I'm
it's
looking at
not,
the table. Which one are you looking at? I'm looking at 2024.
yeah, in the 2024 is there's that N provide sprinkler system, but in the 2021 there's not even an option to replace the 1 hour with
No,
the sprinkler system.
the dry transfer room. Remember, it says electrical installation and transformer. That is in the model code. What the dry
Yes.
transfer over 112.5 wasn't in there. So I see what you're saying. You're saying it says and separation. So I believe it's correct. I think it should be 1 hour and provide automatic sprinkler system. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that NFPA 70 NEC. So That or is that what it had before? Was it or was it and?
Before it was or. Sorry, I think we were talking about two different things. I was pointing out on the other items there in the table above the tri-type transformers where the 2024 IPC added the word and provide sprinkler systems. It wasn't there before. It wasn't an option even, let's say, if we're talking about in group I2, laundry rooms over 100 square feet, the requirement is just 1 hour. There's not even an option to replace it with
I'm
sprinkler
looking
system.
right at it. I'm looking right at it. Laundry rooms over 100 square feet. It says 1 hour or provide automatic sprinkler system. I'm looking at
sorry,
2024.
The one below it in group I2.
In the
one right below it.
2021 code, not 2024.
And
2021, correct.
oh, okay. I was looking at the 2024. So
Right, because Andy, the blue represents the 24 changes, correct? That came from
Correct,
ICC.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't just like a change from the R to an N, but there was not an option previously to replace those with sprinkler system, to replace the rating with the sprinkler system.
that's correct. So that should stay there.
So yeah, I see what you're saying. And Dustin, in your significant changes, you put that it's replacing or automatic. The significant changes is that it's not replacing it, it's just and automatic. So they're just requiring it now.
It's just
It's not-
adding it.
Yeah.
But that's the change, right? Because I'm looking here in the 2021 section. I don't actually have that one up yet. I was looking at the 2024 there, model code, and let me get to the.
No.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm looking 2024 right now, and I see for I2 laundry rooms over 100 square feet, 1 hour and provide automatic sprinkler system.
Yes,
one
that's
right
correct
above
in the
it.
2024.
Yeah, and the one
But-
but they don't have a bar by it, so I don't think they changed it. One right above it is laundry rooms over 100 square feet, so they're different. It's one when you're in an I2, or one if you just have a laundry room, then that's different. So it's only when you're in a group I2. So that's the difference between that table.
Oh, it looks like so for like I3 they added the and provide. So if I take out just language added.
Exactly.
Oh, you're talking about up there in the significant changes. Got it. I see what you're saying. But in our table, in the table that we're putting in. Okay.
And there's a cost associated with it. Do we think there needs to be an amendment, or is that something we should review further?
No, I think let me be careful. Where the blue is, right? I want to make sure I understand everyone correctly. Where the blue is, that's the model code.
Correct.
Okay. Where the green is, that is what we had in one of our state amendments.
Correct.
And the most safest one is 1 hour and provide automatic sprinkler systems. That's obviously the most safest, but I don't know if that is correct, that you have to do both of them. You can't just do one.
It is correct in the 2024 because that's what's written as we can see. So
Yeah,
does that add cost? And I would say yes. And is the amendment needed? We would have to look at what the proponent said on why it was needed. But without knowing, then I would say that, yeah, it's needed so that we erred on the side of safety.
right. So the way I read it, where it says electrical installation and transformers, I personally think we should just use that. Because it covers everything that's required, and delete that, our state amendment. But that's because a dry type transformer is still a transformer. So, but I don't know. So I'm probably showing my ignorance on that part.
So an amendment may not be needed, but I think to err, we should at least look at it down the road.
Yeah. I think that's true.
That's not what I wanted to type.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So when they remove or replace text, how do they indicate that on this, on the model code? Do they?
They do have some bar markings off in the margin
Okay.
to discuss removal or moved text. Only when they're adding text will you see something that jumps out at you like that, like the blue text.
I see. Thank you.
So like, I just happen to have the 2021
Yeah,
text
and if you,
open.
yeah,
of
if you
this
buy the
arrow here.
the Washington State Amendment one that we put in through ICC, they'll have a double bar by it, showing that something has changed. And then they'll have an arrow showing something was added or deleted. At the
Yes.
very front of the front of the I codes, it actually explains all those normal locations. The very
Yeah.
in very beginning of the code tells you how they did it.
And those chapters you sent out to us, they would have that in there.
No, they don't. That would be in the forward of the book. I'm gonna see if there's a quick website that might have it. If you like, I can I can actually get to it in here.
Yeah, it's written right in the beginning.
Sorry if I'm gonna scroll through it just looking for it. Here we
Yeah,
go.
there you go, right there.
So marginal mark, solid vertical lines for new text and deletion arrows.
Right.
Or bars for new text, deletion arrows, and asterisks for relocations. And then there's also a table in the beginning of the book that kind of talks where relocated items would be. And it's coming up here pretty quick. There you go. So right after the kind of quick breakdown of chapters and topics, they have the relocations of stuff in here. So I'll get off of that one. Needs additional review. All right. That puts us back here to 509.1. We want to review this significant change. We want to keep this amendment. And we don't want to consider adding and here because they're just, I don't think this one kind of would fall into the category of these ones up here. At least that's my understanding of it. Does that sound good to everybody to move on this one? Okay. All right. Moving on to 510.2 for special provisions. Two, special provisions, horizontal building separation allowance. This one was an interesting one because the recommendation is to discuss with everybody here today, using the model code language versus our amendment. It's slightly different, but has the same intent for options 1 and 2 here. So they've just put our amendment below them for number 1 and number 2 for discussion purposes.
Yeah, we brought this actually just to let you know that was our intent when we put it into the model code through WABO. So it's supposed to be the same. That was what worked with California on this one too to make sure we got this building separation correct. So I believe it's saying the same thing, but if other people read it and read it differently, let me know. But that was the intent of that change. So
the updated model code seemed more clear than the Washington State amendment. So, in my opinion, we should just adopt the model code.
yeah, that's exactly how I feel too.
Third that. I don't know what our process is for, we just recommend it doesn't need to be carried through at that point then, and
Right, I think we'd still have to put forward a proposal on it. But being that we're working as a group here to kind of reduce the amount of amendments we do, I see the proposal being a pretty simple, straightforward one where we just adopt the model text and remove the state amendment.
Yeah, to let you know, this came from, I believe, Seattle and California worked on this one. I remember the code hearing. So if I remember correctly, it should be exactly the same. So
So
covered the
Dustin,
same
when,
thing.
so in that kind of case where we as the technical advisors understand that the intent's the same, where is that line that we have to write a proposal? Because if we're adopting the model code first and then amending second, is that correct in the rulemaking process?
I believe that that is a correct way of looking at it, that we're, the first mentioned sections adopt the code and then say with these amendments that we put in there. So we adopt the model code first, then we amend it. And as far as what's most appropriate, if we're just removing the amendment because of it's the same, I think it could be considered editorial, but I might need to run that by Dirk just to make sure I'm most clear on it.
Okay. Yeah, if you don't mind doing that, just out of curiosity, this would be a good example, and so would the previous one with the building heights, where we think the model code is clear and it supersedes, I think is the terminology, the Washington Amendment. Unless there's any opposition, and then of course that would, trigger this larger discussion and process of the need for a proposal and consideration in the rulemaking process. But that's more of a question than a statement. So
Right. When it comes to the APA and some other things, the APA has some specified rulemaking routes, but the SBCC doesn't follow any of those, and we have our own kind of vetted process that is kind of established, and we're saying that we are compliant with APA by doing the process that we do here right now. Joshua.
Just letting you know, Dustin, I'm not hopping off. I'm switching to mobile, but if it affects your roll call, you'll see someone drop off and come on.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And so that brings us to the end of chapter 5 for existing amendments. Scrolling through, there's that blue language here, and then there was another. I guess as you guys were reviewing this, did you identify any other significant changes we want to talk about today? Because if the blue language isn't included in the table, I have not made any considerations on them yet. And so I would just defer to the folks who have actually worked with the chapter. Okay. So we'll consider all these not significant and just kind of clarification purposes amendments in the model code. And our existing amendments for chapter 5, we have some recommendations from the tag on all that were identified. And the significant changes, we've only got the language within table 509.1. And at this point, we could table this topic for chapter 5 for further review amongst yourselves and bring it back, or we could entertain a motion to approve this towards the master document, which will be reviewed again as well.
So I'm sorry, I just want to be clear. So if we say, well, let's approve it as the master document, you just said it'll also be reviewed one more time. Is that correct?
Yeah, so when we approve this here today, if we say, yes, we're good, I'm going to package it up and get it ready to move into a bit larger document. And before we move that larger document onto the committees and council meeting, I want to go over it one more time with the tag and have a vote on the document as a whole, where we've put in chapters that we voted on.
Okay.
Now we'll put on the
Okay. So I make a motion to do that. Basically, go ahead. We don't have to go back to it. Go ahead and put it in our And I guess I need a second, I guess, before I don't.
Second.
Okay, so I think that like makes a lot of sense. So it's moved and seconded that we make this recommendation for chapter 5. Any other discussion?
It was
All
our
in
second.
fa-
Tim?
Tim.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. If there's no more discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Chapter 5 is recommended. I like this process. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Gotcha. Well, congratulations, Tag. We've done a chapter. I'm gonna close out of chapter 5 and we're gonna get to chapter 6. And we've made some modifications to both of those. So on this next one, chapter 5 was the only one I got to be able to insert the code language in line with the document. So for this one, I don't have any existing amendments in here. I have one, or no, not a, pardon me, no significant changes identified in this document and one existing amendment. Let me pull up the Word document here in just a second.
And just to be clear on this, you know, the amendments to the 20, no, scratch that. I'm sorry. I was thinking back to the 2021 code were significant. I was just going to make a comment that what is significant, if it's already in a Washington amendment, is it significant that it's a change in the model code? It doesn't apply because I'm 3 years behind here, so we're good.
All right, so for 601 in our WAC is a reserve, so there's no amendments. In 601, we have 602. There's 4 sections with amendments, and it looks like those are all wrapped into this one comment. And it looks like the comment is to adopt model code language in place of our amendments. And so 602.4, let me
What's weird, when I look at 602.4, I don't see any lines or anything in the 2024. So what I don't understand is why we didn't do the same thing for the 21, adopt our amendments. So I'm trying to figure out, unless someone else knows, I'm looking in the 2024 and there's no line or anything. So I'm curious why we had it for the 2021.
Okay, so actually my point, Hoyt, was correct. I was thinking these are the type 4B changes, right, Joe?
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
these are significant changes in the 2024. It's just that we had them in a Washington amendment to 2021 already. So my question is are they significant? Because it's not a big change for us between Washington and the model code, but it is significant in the 2024 IBC.
I think I would agree that it is not significant in the state of Washington because we addressed the model code language change in the 2021 edition. And if it's significantly the same and we agree that there's no regulatory change between the proposed now model code for the 2024 versus our 2021 amendment, we can probably move this one forward pretty quick.
Yeah, I believe AWC actually brought these into the code at the code hearings. So it looks like it's exactly the same. So I agree with you. So.
Yeah, there was some like very insignificant word changes between
Grammar change.
the Washington State 21 and ICC 24. So it feel like we just adopt the ICC 2024, call it a day.
And then 4224. It looks like our state amendment for section 6024.2.2.4 is the same and needs to be deleted. 604.23 similar, and then 6024.4.3 same. So everybody in agreement to adopt model code and repeal the amendment?
Yes, and Joe, can you just explain to me, this is the question I had to you. What does it mean in here when that is striked out? So 4.4, so 602.4.4.3 concealed spaces. We have this
Yeah,
large strikeout.
the, sorry, I think that eh, the language I was added below is specifically for type 4 heavy timber. And so I think we keep the strikeout because that's specific language for type 4C buildings. So I don't think we have any changes to make. We just probably could clean up this document a little bit more.
So what I'm looking at though is that in the model code, the green strikeout is already our Washington Amendment. We struck that out and already have. So nothing's changing. It's just that's how we did it in the Washington Amendment. Okay.
Yeah,
I understand.
Yeah, that concealed spaces for type 4C was already in our code. So we
Okay,
don't,
it's only because we're going back to the model code and then editing that. Got it.
And so there's a number change for that section.
But can I ask one question real quick? I thought the exception was something that wasn't. Now I could be wrong on that. If you looked at it more, where it says the exception, so within interior wall and partition of 1 hour or greater, fires that comply with this shall not require additional protection. I thought that was different than the model code. Now I could be wrong on that, but I thought that was.
It's a good question, but I don't remember.
for
Yeah,
type
'cause-
4C specifically,
That's where we are now.
because there was some updates for type 4 heavy timber, giving 3 options for concealed
Yeah,
spaces.
that was the difference between heavy timber and the A, B, and C
Yeah.
cross-laminated timber. So I just
That-
thought that was, yeah, there it is right there. Okay, so it is in there for concealed spaces under.
But this,
I'm
this
sorry,
is
I'm going
specifically in
off
walls
memory.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
that
this
was
is
in walls. Yeah.
the exception is for walls and partitions.
Are we done with the model code text? I was just comparing it with the WAC and it appears verbatim.
I'll trust you. I don't. I thought there was a difference, but I could be wrong. I could just be remembering wrong. So.
Yeah. Is Brett on the line? I think he may have copied and pasted this in. I'm a little confused on the sequence of events in here.
I do not see Brett in the attendees list at the moment.
Okay.
And I know AWC is really big on this cross-limited timber stuff and all these kind of things. So that exception, maybe they got it in somehow. As long as he's checked that, then I'm fine. I just don't know top of my head.
Oh,
Dustin, can you go back to the model codes, please, to the same section?
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that we're not all thinking HT rather than C. So 602.4.3 in the model code, you just head it up.
yeah, 6. I'm in. There's that there. And do you want to look at the 2021 model language by chance at all? I can
No,
get
no,
that
the
pulled up.
2024, the model code. So 602.4. So you scroll up, but you're in the HT section here, not in the type
Oh
4C.
yeah.
I don't think concealed spaces are in type 4C to my knowledge.
No, there's only one line there, which is basically you have to cover it with it has to have some non-combustible sheathing on it.
But this is where I think maybe our edits are. So look at right 602.4.3.5.
Yeah. So
Oh yeah, now I'm remembering. I think Brett copied in the language from type 4 heavy timber into this section and struck out the correct section. So we need to keep the correct section and get rid of the things that was copy pasted in from type 4 heavy timber
Yeah,
in
this
this
isn't
Word
correct,
document.
is
Yeah, it's
my-
not correct as it's currently shown.
Okay,
We
thank
just
you.
need keep the ICC language, which matches what was put in the 2021 Washington State Code.
Okay. So in 602.435, we just need to keep concealed spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And this stuff here needs to come
Remove
down.
all that green. Yep,
down to here to this section.
Yeah, and then that's already there, so we don't need to do
that
anything.
supersedes it. It should be aligned with what we put in 2021 Washington Amendment. So there should be no green in this section you're in now.
Yep.
I'm screwing up the numbering. 602.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to be sure on that. So I opened it also, so.
And then down below in 602.4.4.2, that is correct. That is now in the 2024 model code, and that supersedes what we put in the 2021 Washington amendments.
This isn't turning back. There we go. All right, and then 602.4.4.
And Dustin, you still need to take the green strikeouts out.
Those two.
Yeah.
And then
Or just reject. I think you need to reject the change.
I'm sorry.
Maybe.
Yes. You need them in there. You need to reject the strikeout change.
I think that early on I let everybody know that ICC didn't want us to do track changes on these things.
No, shoot.
That meeting I had just earlier this week, they said that they are indifferent and actually
Okay.
prefer it. And so I don't know where that information, how that got generated. It came down from Stoy, and
But Dustin, you need a Control Z out. You need that section back in there. You just need to remove the.
Yeah.
You need to remove the green and
Right,
remove the strikeout.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah, right click the green text and okay. It wasn't.
There you go, right?
There you go.
Changes. Yeah. Okay.
Just make sure it was back to what the model code was.
Right, and then ICC also said they don't care about the indentations and things as long as the information is correct. So I'm not going to worry about this kind of being out of place in here at the moment.
Okay. Does everyone track what we did there on the fly? That we just returned it back to the model code in type 4C, and then in type 4 HT this supersedes. So that's what the table should say.
I see that, but there is a slight numbering issue there just because it comes from the next section that we're moving it down to. So it's 602.4.3.3, the one above shafts. Yeah.
Okay, this 602.4.
Oh yeah, good call. Yeah.
And then as far as our state amendment goes, that
gets added and then shown as deleted and no longer needed underneath 602.4.4.2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
So the section we got deleted gets put in here and then struck out, correct?
Because it's no longer needed. That's correct.
Okay.
Excellent.
Nice. That was confusing.
Yeah, okay. And then how about I will add a comment to this bad boy. Okay. And then over here for our report spreadsheet, I'm going to put a new line in here, 602.443, model. I guess we're doing that for all of these. I'm sorry, I'm creating extra work. So, adopt model code language for all these sections is what we're saying, and then our Word document, albeit confusing, is correct now.
I believe that's correct.
As far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Gotcha. We'll get a chance to re-review it again with the master document. So we're going to Hit that one. All right, so with that one, I think that we are done with existing amendments. There's no significant changes that were identified in this chapter. And if everybody's in agreement with that, we can entertain the motion to approve chapter 6 as we have it drafted.
I'll make that motion to approve chapter 6 as amended.
Second.
Okay, so that was Tim and then Hoyt. So it's been moved and seconded to recommend adoption of chapter 6. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Hey,
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that recommendation is approved. Okay, so we're at 3:30. We're scheduled till 4. Is our goal here to go another 30 minutes, and where we get to, that's it, and then we'll pick it up next week?
That's kind of how we do that with the IFC. We stopped mid chapter 9, and I just have the section notated in the minutes where we stopped. We could do it that way, or we can see what the next chapter yields for us. It's let's see, chapter 7, 8 and 9 is in this document. So this one's 3 chapters in one report.
I would say do as much as we can, because sometimes with the ICC committees that I'm on, sometimes you don't get a quorum, and we had a quorum. So, you
And I
know,
just wanted to confirm we still have a quorum, or what our rules are, that we had a quorum when we started, and that's enough. Michael, go ahead. Michael, are you trying to be recognized?
oh, sorry, I hit the wrong button instead of unmute. I was saying that chapter 7 is going to take some time. There are some things to discuss in there. And I realized that I sent Dustin the Word document with all the changes and the comments, but I did not do the spreadsheet. So if you want to work off the spreadsheet, then at least for the section that I did, 712 through 722, then I need to get you that spreadsheet first.
Okay.
So
do we want to hold off on chapter 7 as a whole then and hit it as a chunk of chapter, and maybe hit chapter 8 and 9 here today?
yeah, let's do that then.
Okay.
sounds good.
All right, so
And Dustin, just to confirm, do we have quorum still, or we do not need to have quorum since we started the meeting with quorum?
if we're gonna make a motion to include them in the master document, we would need quorum. If we want to make a recommendation for next one, we don't need quorum, but let me do a quick audit real quick. So I have Todd is still here.
Well, we can do the work regardless, and then right before we take the action, right?
Before we're ready, we will just take a quick audit.
Okay, let's do it then. Yeah. Okay.
Gotcha. So getting open chapter 8, 1 second. It says there's no state amendments in here. And in chapter 8, I have no significant changes. So this one ought to be a quick one. Looking through a little bit of blue text and foam plastics. Looks just like a section reference.
Yeah, there was some cross-reference there between 806 and the 802, I believe. And in 803.13, I think those were mostly editorial on 803. But on 802.7,
802.7, sorry, I'm scrolling.
802.7 and 806.6.1. Those were just basically cross-reference there for foam plastic in the interior trim.
Okay.
Or shall not be used.
Do we want to include this one? We have a recommendation to keep the model code change for 803.13.
Yeah, and I think I forgot to include that in the previous one, 802.
We can insert that as a change here. We got 803.23.
So did someone look at the table and just make sure there's no changes? I mean, because I did not, so I don't think there is from our state. I think we're
Which
okay.
table are you referring to?
Table 803-13. I don't believe there's
As
any
far as
changes.
our whack goes, let me get in there.
I don't think so. But again, you know, I'm in my 50s. I don't like to go off my memory. So
So
Yeah, I'm not seeing it, but
there's no
maybe
amendment.
somebody else can confirm.
yeah, I didn't think there was anything. I think that's correct. I just want to, if someone else looked too.
Keep this progress going. I'd make a motion that we include chapter 8 in the final document.
Second,
All right. It's been moved and seconded. Let's just confirm we have quorum, please.
Okay, one moment. So Todd's still here. Joe is still here. Tim Woodard is still here. We got Hoyt still here. We have Joshua still here. We have Michael Barth is still here. And Andy is still here. We still
All
have
right.
a quorum.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, any discussion on that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Can I just have the first and seconders restate that so I can write it down for our notes?
Yeah, I think it was Tim then Hoyt, or wrong order?
Correct.
Okay,
Awesome.
any opposed? Sorry, we're in the middle of vote. Okay. So that recommendation for approval is passes for chapter 8.
All right, moving on. So I did include 803.13 in the significant changes section. Do we want I guess we would maybe need to touch on that. Do we want to keep that in there or leave that out?
I'm sorry, Dustin, I'm not sure.
I don't understand what your question is.
I guess so. We didn't go over cost on this one. Does the change in chapter 803.13 bring cost in? Just so I could finish out this table. And if it's a friendly amendment, do we need to re-vote on that? Is I guess my question for everybody.
Well, I think the
thought it
motion was just for
more of-
adoption, so I think we can talk about it in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think it's just a cross-reference, but I think maybe whoever reviewed that section might be able to speak to that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was more of I guess clarification on that charging paragraph to refer to the table.
We'll be good then.
Yep. It seems correct.
Okay, getting chapter 9 out.
That is a big one. But also there's a lot of editorial changes as far as adding the word automatic to the sprinkler system.
Yeah, that
So I
was
think-
happening in the fire code as well.
Yeah, that's all
So I
did not-
driven by IFC. The fire committee actually does chapter 9.
So I did not add, like for example, in 901.4 there, I did not add, adopt the model code change, but it's more of editorial, so we'll adopt it, or at least that's my recommendation.
I think that is perfectly acceptable. So anything like that that's blanketed all across the code, we don't need to really worry about it. And like renumberings, we don't need to worry about including in our changes reports. So skipping down to 903.2.1.3. 903.2.1.3. There we are. Group A3. With the recommendation to keep the existing amendment. Sounds good. 903.2.1.6. With the recommendation to keep the existing amendment.
Yes.
Okay. Oops. 903.2.1.8.
Yeah, that's a nightclub requirements that
Yep.
that's specific for our state, so we should keep that.
Yep. 903.2.3, Group E.
I think we're okay, right? We're talking about just the state amendment now, because in the 903.2.2.2, there's the addition from the model code there related to, in this case, Group B with lithium ion and lithium metal batteries requiring sprinkle. So that's more of a repeat, somehow a repeat requirements within all the different group of occupancies that contain or do testing or research on lithium ion or lithium metal batteries.
And the recommendation there is to keep the new model code change.
Yeah, that's
the fire
correct. It's in
tag,
the model code. I thought the fire code already required this, what I remember in the
they
IFC.
do,
Yeah,
since
I believe
the
so.
lithium metal batteries are kind of an emerging and fast-paced industry, the fire tag is slating all of these lithium ion battery sections for just a little bit more attention down the road in our proposal section. So maybe they'll be taking the lead on that, and we can correlate changes that they may come up with if there are any. There wasn't any proposed yesterday's meetings.
But my recommendation is to keep that if so.
Okay. All right, then we'll bounce back to 903.2.3. With the existing state amendment, it looks like the recommendation is to keep it. Then we'll bop over to 903.2.4. Is that in here? Yep. No more lithium ion exceptions. Similar, keep the new model code change. And fire tag we'll look at a little bit later. Scrolling down, we got 903.2.73. 903.2.5.3. Looks like looks like that one's not in this list for existing amendments.
Right, that was 2.6, right? Are we looking at the 2.6?
Yeah, 903.2.6. Oh, I'm sorry. My brain's getting fried reading all the Dewey Decimal numbers. So apologies. With the recommendation to keep that one and 903.2.6.1, keeping that one. Any discussion, or I'll keep on
No, you
moving?
should actually keep those. Those are specific for our state. So those should be kept.
903.2.7.3, more lithium batteries. 903.2.7.3 in here, similar to the ones above. Passing costs, don't recommend an amendment. And I think everybody's probably in agreement with that one. In the 903.2.8, existing state amendment with the recommendation to keep it.
Yep, I agree with it.
Okay. And then let's see, 903.2.9 is the next one, the significant changes. 90329.
That's item 5. That's item 5, and that's the lithium battery again.
Yep.
That
So out of curiosity, I'm seeing the column that says amendment needed, yes or no? And
Uh-huh.
we're marking those as, how do we decide if they're needed or not needed? What is the determining factor?
no, the
I
blue
guess-
is the blue is
Yeah.
actually in the model code. What I'm saying is the green is what we're adding. The blue is actually the model code.
Is,
I think the question is an amendment needed for this significant change that's been identified? And my answer would be that the reviewer's opinion is that an amendment's not needed
Right.
in there. And if that is not agreed upon by the group, we can change that at this point.
Oh, no. So we're saying, no, we don't need an amendment because the model code text is what we want to move forward with.
Correct.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure that out as we're going through this. Just FYI.
I'm glad you asked just to make sure my mind was in the right place too.
All right, 90243 is the next significant. 903-211. So we're gonna go back to 90343. Come on, where's it
I
at?
think we're skipping the there's the
I think-
903.2.11.1.3. It's
You're-
just the
you're
state
correct.
amendment there.
22.11. We have a small amendment up here, recommendation to keep it. 11.1.3, recommendation to keep this amendment in here. Everybody agree to move down to 11.7? Seeing no hands.
Just to be sure, the green is just want to let you know that is what the model code says, right? No, it isn't.
Green.
Washington Amendment. The
no,
red and
Washington
the
Amendment.
green are the Washington Amendments.
So why are we not more than 75 when it already says locate or any parses? It says the same thing, doesn't it? Okay.
Let's see.
When I read that sentence, it seems like it's weird.
I know 3, 2, 11.
I thought the model code would pretty much says that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, so it's the or there, right? So where any portion of a basement is located more than 75 feet as required by section 903, or where new walls.
Yeah, but the or is already in the model code. It says I don't know. It says or other or where walls, partitions, or other. I mean, I don't know why it says new walls. I mean, you're in the IBC; they're all new walls. It's like IBC is all new. We're not in the IEBC, right? I mean, we're in the
Not yet.
everything's new.
Yeah, the new wall seems to be just editorial, but I think what was previously changed there was that the obstruction. I think it's got to do more with the host stream restriction rather than the travel distance for the partitions.
Right, and I think this
In-
should be the fire tag should be verify this, not us personally, to make sure that's correct.
So I guess the process here, though, since this is not a model code change, then this would require a proposal for consideration, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But you see the F? What did the fire people say for this? You must have had this for the fire code also. What did they
We
say?
didn't get this far in chapter 9 on Tuesday.
Yeah,
So
can you wait until you deal with that with fire? If that's would be my recommendation, and not make a decision on this one and come back to it after fire's looked at it. I don't know what other people think, but when I read it, I'm like, I don't know if we really need that, but I could be totally wrong on that. So it's
No, that makes sense,
yeah,
just to get
yeah.
clarity.
And then one other thing is when we go through all this stuff, when fire has done all their review of all this, we should recheck to see if we have any differences from them to make sure we got it right at the end. Because chapter 9 is all driven by the fire code.
So in the interest of maybe touching this one once, would it be better to hold off on chapter 9 until we get a review on it from the fire code and come back and compare them? Or should we
That
push
would
forward
be,
with this one?
I don't know what other people think,
Makes
but
sense.
that's what I would do. I would think, because I mean, the fire should be, there should be fire marshals and stuff on that tag. Correct me if I'm wrong.
There
So,
And
are.
they work in this thing all day long.
We got Barry here. We got our fire marshal.
Yeah, Barry
Um,
could make the call. I mean,
yeah, makes the call. Well, I think it makes sense. How do we have anything else to review in chapter 9? I think that'd be a good stopping point. We get, through the work and then let the fire tag meet next week, 'cause they're going to meet before us, I think. And then we can
And
circle
just
back, right?
right, I agree, and I think just one general statement. I think there were some inconsistencies between the building and fire codes on chapter 9. At least on chapter 9, when I was reviewing it, because my colleague Walker Danucci on the fire tech, we cross-referenced his work, and I saw that there was cases where there was an amendment in the fire code but none in the building code, or could be vice versa. Can't remember anymore because yeah, it's just
Would you
getting too
say
much for me to keep tap on
Would
it.
you say the correlation changes are more with the Washington amendments, or are there model code correlations that didn't happen as well?
More on the Washington amendments.
Okay.
that's the one reason why I think it's a good idea to have the fire make their decisions, and then we could just check it to make sure there's not an inconsistent with the building. If we start making changes in here, and then all of a sudden the fire goes and makes different changes, we're gonna have the same problem of code correlation. So I would recommend chapter 9 just to wait till the fire's done with theirs, and then we do our check after that. That would be my.
Well, we should be completing chapter 9 next Tuesday, and I can disseminate that stuff to everybody here so we can come back and look at that with the informed recommendations of that tag.
Well, we only have 8 minutes. Is that a sign that it's a good time to stop?
I would agree.
Call it a victory?
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
All right. So unless anyone else is opposed, thank you for that. Then we'll table the rest of this part of the agenda till next meeting. Dustin, if you don't mind pulling the agenda back up just to conclude the meeting today, I think we do have an agenda item where we had another business.
Yeah.
Just for thoroughness here, let's raise the question. Is there any other business we need to address? And that includes anything. Go
I
ahead.
would just throw out there, does this tag full now? Do we have all of our positions filled, or are we still looking for?
We do not. So part of my work for tomorrow is to get the positions applicants that we do have out to Todd, and then we have some more on for the fire tag as well. And the plan is to get the applications out, have the chairs review them, and have them at the next meeting, and then confirm their appointment at the next council meeting.
And Dustin, are we doing that? Thank you for Tim for bringing that up. Are we doing that at the executive committee or at the full council?
It was my intent to do it at the council meeting. We could call the executive if you guys would like to do that.
Isn't that how we originally did it?
It is, but excuse me. Sorry, my dog started barking. At the executive committee where we did the initial appointments, it was said that, the chairs could appoint members without necessarily having to recall the executive committee. And so that's kind of the tack I wanted to take, instead of having a whole separate meeting just to go over those, I included as a sub item.
On the
at
full
coun-
council.
Yeah.
Okay,
but
I just want to make sure that the point of that was that we were doing it in a more public forum. And so either executive committee or the super, or obviously the council would, be sufficient also. So, okay.
And I mean, with the cancellation of the committee meetings for next week, maybe I can get with you and the other tag chairs, and we can talk about pulling together the executive committee on that day instead of the committee meetings. And we can just.
I think it makes sense if we have all of the recommendations and for the seats. So,
Okay.
but I think
Then,
either be sufficient. That's just my
so-
single opinion. So, yeah.
Well, for your just what the plan is I'm planning on getting you those applications here in tomorrow, and then we can review them and we can.
Okay.
Exactly.
Are there any to Tim's question? Are there any seats that we need to do final recruitment on that we're not
Yes,
getting
let me
applicants?
pull up our members here. So we are looking for. I'm just going to go through them. So our architect seat, we have a primary and an alternate. For a building official, we have a primary and alternate.
Tim, I'm sorry, Dustin, we might have the wrong document. Sorry.
Oh, hadn't shared it with you guys. Let me pull it up here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 1 second. I'm running off of my attendance sheet, so it looks a little different than the sheet that you guys have for your contacts.
And
so you
Tim, I
should see
kind of
my-
jumped in on there. Did you have a further comment or question on that?
No, this is exactly what I wanted to see.
Okay,
Was
thank you.
this is right here?
Okay. So we got fire services representatives are vacant completely. Affordable housing representatives vacant completely. General contractor developer, we need an alternate for that position. Manufacturer suppliers vacant. Persons with disability or accessibility expert is vacant. Building owner and property manager is vacant. Specialty contractors vacant. State enforcement agency could use an alternate, and same with the fire protection engineer could use an alternate as well. And I don't have applications for all of those positions, because it would be nice to fill them with primaries and alternates.
Dustin, just one note. I believe Michael Shaw from our company applied for the accessibility expert.
Gotcha. Let me just double check what I've got. I've got a folder full of applications here that I'm trying to put together for everybody to digest. So give me one moment, I'll get there. Just to confirm that we have that application.
I think it was submitted on April 17th.
Okay, and what was the name again? It was Shaw?
Michael Shaw.
Yes, I have him in here in our applicants list. And so I've got just a heads up what we got. I got I don't have the seats digestible for me right this moment, but I have a Samir Mokashi who's got an application in for IBC, Michael Shaw for IBC, Matthew Campbell for IBC. I think Lance Dahl has put his name in for fire protection or fire services representative for IBC. I've got Dan Young for IBC, and then Brett Conway and Alex Jens for them. So we got a few applications. I don't know what seats they have on here for them at the moment. I'm in the process of putting that together for the chairs to look at. And hopefully by Thursday next week, we'll have some new blood here to participate in the conversation and maybe volunteer for some chapters if we're still looking up for them.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And it sounds like that could happen at a Friday executive committee meeting that will be posted and open to the public.
Yes.
Okay. Or at the full council meeting the following week.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Tim.
So Barry Kurth is on this call. He's our fire marshal. So I kind of trying to strong arm him into it. Is it possible that you could send him an application? Or can you give notation for him on where to find that?
Yes, it might be easier for us to just send him an application, because right off the top of my head, I can't say where it's at on our website. It should be in our tag page there, but just to be on the safe side, could I just get his email just real quick?
Sure thing. It should be Barry, Barry, K,
Okay.
at Mount Vernon wa.gov.
All right, BARRYA at mountVernonWA.gov.
BARRYK.
Oh, was like K as in kilo?
K as in kite.
Or Kurth.
Or Kurt.
Gotcha. Or Barry K at mountVernonWA.gov. Gotcha. We'll get that out there.
All right. Thank you for that, Tim. Okay, any other business? And I'll open that up to the public. Okay, if not, we're at 4 o'clock. Good work, everyone. Thank you. And we'll see you next time. We're adjourned.
Everybody have a good rest of your week and a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, everyone have a real good rest of the their day, and see you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.